Hello, everybody. Welcome back to The Doctor Will See You Now with me, Dr. Noir, Jackie Collins. If you are a returning viewer, listener, thank you so much for your support. And if you're here for the first time, because you were drawn by the author that we're going to be talking to today, it is great to have you with us. And if you like what we do, then please come back again or go and have a look at the back catalogue. So many fabulous crime writers, thriller writers, psychological thrillers. It's all in there. Go and have a look. Anyway, but to the matter in hand today. I don't know if the author's got her copy, but I'm just going to hold my wee copy up there. Yes! Look at that. Shalini Boland, The Silent Bride. That's the name of the book. That's not you. Published by Thomas and Mercer, June this year. Lovely to have you with us. Thank you so much. How are you doing today?
I'm really good. Thanks, Jackie. Thanks for having me here. It's lovely to be talking to you today.
Absolutely. Honestly, I just think, again, there are writers who, they do something with their work that leaves you. And I think the opening of this book, we'll get past the prologue and then the opening just leaves you gobsmacked. And we'll come back to that in a wee while. But honestly, the power of your craft in what you did with that, and then how you unravel, reveal, and bring us to the end. And it just makes you think. You leave us with a wee warning about things that we maybe shouldn't get involved with, shall we say? So we won't say what it is, but awesomeness. Thank you for your writing. I just wondered, I know you've done other kinds of writing and you've been involved in other aspects of creativity. And I wonder if you could sort of tell us about how previous creative ventures have led you to this point in time with The Silent Bride.
Okay, well, that's quite a long story, but I'll try and condense it. So I started off as a singer-songwriter in my 20s, I was in band.
Do you want to give us one now? Give us a tune?
No.
Okay.
Thanks for asking. But yeah, that's how I started. Just by chance, somebody asked if I could sing on their record, just put a bit of a vocal down. Ended up leading to being in bands singing. We got signed to Universal Music.
Wow.
Yeah, so it was a real sort of whirlwind fun time. And I was so immersed in it. I loved the creativity, loved the writing of it. So when we were signed on a development deal. I don't even know if they do those anymore, but they were developing us as artists and writers. So we never actually got the record deal. So we were with them for about 3 years, and I sang on different people's albums, and it was fun and there was lots going on, but never kind of made it. And then I got pregnant with my eldest, who's now 20. But back then I kind of found it very difficult to be going and gigging and going up to London and doing all things. Yeah. And then I remember back in the day, before I had my mobile phone, I remember ringing up the husband from a phone box, crying, saying, "Oh, I want to come home." It's just like I just had this baby. It was all, and we hadn't made it, so it wasn't like I was committed to do this thing. So I came home, decided to just take a break from it all, but I missed the creativity really badly, and I felt like I couldn't write songs because I wasn't doing that. So I just started writing fiction for fun. And I just wrote snippets here and bits there. And then I thought, I'm going to have a go at writing a book just for myself. And I was very into sort of like sci-fi, dystopian, post-apocalyptic stuff at the beginning of the 2000s, this was. And I'd always loved films of that nature. It just intrigued me. So I wrote post-apocalyptic story about a 16-year-old girl who lives in the area that I live in, and it's set in the near future. And I wrote it, and honestly, reading back, it wasn't that good at the time, but then I rewrote it, eventually self-published it, and it did quite well, and I was quite surprised. And it started selling, and then people were asking for a sequel, so it turned into a trilogy. And then I wrote a vampire series, and that turned into a trilogy. And it was fun, and it was earning me not quite a living, but almost a living.
Yeah.
Then years later, my son got into rowing, and I used to take him down to the river, drop him off and have a little walk and scribble some ideas on a notebook. And as I was at the river, I thought, do you know what? This setting of the rowing club and the river would be a great setting for a novel. But I thought it would suit a more thriller type adult novel rather than a sci-fi fantasy type thing.
Yeah.
So, and that's where I wrote my first psychological thriller, which was The Girl from the Sea. And that she's a rower, and she's found washed up on the shore, and she's lost her memory. And so that's how it started. And those books, my thrillers, they just took off. I don't know whether I caught the right moment, or my writing had got better. Well, I think it had improved and things like that, but it just managed to capture people. So I wrote 3 that were very successful, and then I was approached by publishers and agents that had previously ignored me. It was just, obviously, it was the right book at the right time.
Yeah.
So then I got a publishing deal and wrote lots of books. And then last year, I was approached by Thomas and Mercer at Amazon, and I've always sort of admired their books and and always thought, oh, it would be amazing to work for them. One of those, oh no, oh my goodness, really? So I just couldn't say no, really. And so hence I've signed for 3 books with them.
Oh, lovely. Wonderful.
So the Silent Bride is the first one with them. And so it's been quite a journey.
How exciting it sounds, and what I'm struck by is that idea of you set off on a certain journey, and you must have learned and experienced so much during that time, in the music industry. Because I'm a firm believer in nothing's wasted, even if it doesn't pan out as you think. Nothing's wasted. So you have that, but then it's almost like, okay, the creative me, it can't do it that way, but it needs to do something. So it does it, and the momentum that builds.
I know, it's crazy. It was quite a journey, and there's lots of heartache along the way, lots of tears, lots of frustration, lots of, I don't know, enjoyment as well. You get excited when you come up with an idea, and there's all that. But I think with my songwriting, I hadn't connected to people enough with it. I think that was my downfall. Looking back, I think I tried to write things that, so the melody would be nice, but the lyrics maybe weren't there. They weren't touching people or connecting with people. I think that was my downfall with that. I needed to be more honest, shall we say, and more open. And I feel like with my books, I try and dig deep into how that makes me feel, and how that, all these people going through struggle in my books and going through awful moments, and I try and bring out my feelings, or it's just almost like an acting thing. You have to bring up those emotions
and become. It's that becoming, isn't it? And I wonder as well, the author that I was speaking to on the previous program, talking about the benefit of getting older, and what you understand and what life experience can then bring, that maybe when you were writing the music, at a different point in life. I'm thinking about this thing of being able to connect to people.
Definitely. But also it's that thing of when you're young and you're trying to be cool and look good and all that, rather than thinking, no, actually, and there are some phenomenal artists, obviously, that are young and be raw and honest, but I just don't think I'd got to that stage in my life where I was confident enough, I think, to be in that way.
And I think, we can safely say that within the pages of The Silent Bride, the idea of raw emotion, and getting into, well, the heart of a person, the mind of a person, the psyche, everything that's there, yeah, yeah. I think, that the feeling that these aren't characters that are just found on a page. These are characters that you could, I mean, I must confess, having gone, like, not having gone through the traditional way of getting married and things like that, I don't think it would ever happen to me. But I could feel the horror of your protagonist of thinking this isn't right. So thank you for the
Thank
feeling.
you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, I love it. So, because I'm always scared not to give too much away. So tell us about Alice.
Okay, so Alice is my protagonist. She's a successful accountant. She's ambitious and she works very hard. She lives in the market town of Ringwood in Hampshire, which is near where I live. And she has been with her fiance and they're about to get married and she's very excited. She's got the wedding of her dreams planned in the little church just outside Ringwood, traditional little church. Everyone's there for the day. It's a beautiful summer's day. She's walking down the aisle on her father's arm. Everybody's there, all her friends and family, and she can't believe this is happening. She's so happy. But then the groom turns towards her and she's confused because she doesn't recognize him and she thinks, oh, well, maybe that's not him. Maybe he's standing somewhere else. He's not standing in the right, but no. And he's looking directly at her and everybody's looking at her and she just doesn't understand what's going on because that is not him. He's handsome, he's tall, and so she freezes halfway down the aisle and everyone's confused. She's also embarrassed, humiliated, doesn't know what she should do. Should she make a fuss? Anyway, she obviously she can't go through the wedding because this is not her husband. And everyone else is confused because they don't know why she's acting this way. And the story, the rest of the novel deals with what has happened here and what's going to happen. So.
Yes, as a consequence of that. Yes, I did like it in that opening chapter though, where she stood there and you do. I don't know whether you purposefully do these humorous moments or whether I wasn't supposed to find it humorous, but it's where it goes through her head. Am I, are there two weddings going on? Am I stood in the wrong place?
Yeah.
Yeah, because my bridesmaids are over there. But
Yeah.
this is, have we got mixed up? And didn't know whether I should, have a little
No,
giggle.
I do like to put a bit of those normal humorous moments in.
Yeah. So just if we, sitting within that scenario of getting married, and I just wondered whether because Alice has been wanting this for so long. She's been wanting to find the one. And I know you're married, and so, but do you believe in the sense of the one?
Not really. I don't
No.
think so. No, I think there's so many people out there that you can connect with on a level, and I think it's hard work, and you've got to have the initial attraction definitely, and you've got to have that. And I think it's nice if you have the same belief system or morals or that type of somebody that you can really connect with. But I think a lot of it is down to hard work and sticking with it, and I think you can find that sort of relationship where you feel like this is the person I'm meant to be with. But I don't necessarily think that. I mean, you think there's millions of people on the planet. I think there's something that you could connect with lots of people. That's my view.
I'm a firm believer in that. I mean, I think that sense of until I find the one, but different ideas of who the one might be.
And
yeah.
different times in your life as well, different.
Yes,
Yeah,
yeah. As to when it might be right to be with somebody, and yet at another time they might just not have been that right fit.
yeah.
So yeah, and then I want to ask you about weddings, because it's, there's such a focus on. I love it. She says, I take a deep breath and gaze down at my simple bouquet of ferns and roses, and the beaded lace bodice and silk organza skirt of my wedding gown. I mean, just how beautiful,
Mm.
simple but so beautiful. Um, Weddings, and then the expectations that they put on relationships.
Mm.
Because this is, as you say, this is fairy tale. She's planned this, and I just wonder that sense of all the expectation. I mean, you take it to the nth degree of where all the expectations just like boom. Um, is there a way that we can have all that, but still be realistic in what comes after?
I think that sometimes, I don't know, I just feel this sometimes the more you try and plan things, the more they go awry. And I think, I don't know, very often in my
Yeah.
life, I will try and plan something and make it perfect, and it doesn't quite go well.
Mhm.
Whereas other times, if I'm not planning something, I could end up having the best day of my life, and it's just all accidental and it all just happens to be right. And I don't know if it's that expectation that sends things awry, or whether it's I don't know, somebody having a laugh. But when you're just I mean, obviously sometimes it works, oftentimes it does work out, but I just I like that. I like writing about things like that, where people are almost not smug, but almost like, this is
Yeah.
fantastic and it's going to be amazing, and da 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 da. And as the reader, we kind of thinking, ooh.
Da, da, da. Are you sure? Yeah. But what you've just said made me think about your writing, and of course your process. And it's that familiar question of, do you plan or do you let it happen? So I just wondered whether, you've said about life in general that sometimes it's just so much better to let things happen. Do you let your writing happen, or do you feel you need to control?
I'm a complete control freak with my writing. I'm
Ah,
terrible. I didn't used to be. I used to just
yeah,
have
well,
a
yeah,
vague idea and off I'd go. But the problem with that is, it's fine if you haven't got a deadline. If you can just let it
yeah,
take you and
yeah,
rein it back in and then rewrite a bit. But if I've been writing to very tight deadlines over the past few years, so I know I now have a process of coming up with the opening scene. It's got to be a grabber, a hooker, that sort of scene that people
yeah.
will want to read on, and then creating the rest of the story from that usually. And then um, so I'll have a beginning, a middle, an end, some twists possibly, and then I will plan the chapters. And I will write as much as I can of the chapters, the characters, get the whole thing before I start. So everything is sewn up. However, like I said before, you you could start writing a character and they want to go off piste and they want to
Yeah,
do
yeah.
this. So I will still allow myself to go with the flow if I need to, but at least I know I've got this framework. If you know, if nothing else comes to me, I've got this great story, hopefully, that will. And then usually as well, I like to maybe add another twist in right at the end once the whole thing's done. And I can see, oh, do you know what? It might be because I've written this character in this way, being innocent. Wouldn't it be fun if I then changed it at the end? So there's lots of leeway in my control freakness.
Free. Yeah, I think I'm intrigued by the blend there. That it's that nice middle ground of, I'm structured, I know where I'm going, but because that's the thing, isn't it? The best laid plans.
Mm,
If you have a character or a storyline that seems to actually, now because this has happened, we'd better.
yeah.
But I wanted to ask you. You talked about tight deadlines, and it's something that I wrangle with an awful lot. I understand, like well, I don't understand the publishing world. You know, I sit on the outside and I'm amazed by what happens, but I'm always a little perturbed by, it where authors are expected to produce maybe a book a year. And I'm thinking about creativity and that it's not a thing that can be manufactured. And I just wondered, would it ever help if publishers allowed authors, let this book come of its own free will? A bit like baking, or cooking. Some things you can whip in and out of the oven, and some things need to marinate and sit. So, what's your feeling on that?
So I've always been lucky in that the publishers I've worked with have always said, "You tell me when you want to."
Oh, wonderful! Yeah.
The problem is they could give me 6 months or 6 years, and I'm a nightmare. I will leave it to the last minute and then
Mm,
panic, freak out, cry, and berate myself for not, I
mhm.
so I will always give myself quite a small deadline because I know that then I will just write it, get it done. Otherwise, I will procrastinate. But that's for this type of book, which is quite structured, that sort of thriller. If I was writing, so for example, when I wrote my vampire novels,
Yeah.
they're a lot more historical. So they take a lot longer to write because I'm researching certain periods in
Yeah.
history
Yeah.
and I don't think I'd be able to write in the same way. But with these, because obviously there is research, and I have to speak to police officers and I have to go to places and I have to get things right. But at the end of the day, once I've got all that information, I can just
Yeah. Proceed. Yeah.
do it. And it's not a book that is about necessary that they're more kind of they're very sort of structured plots and I've got the character already there. So I think it depends on the genre as well, but
Okay.
also
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think I say this time and time again. I'm a firm believer that, and I think this is the beauty of it. That even though it's a book or it's an audio book, it's a certain shape, certain form. Every single person, you beautiful authors, the difference that there is there, that it's and to say it is done like this.
Yeah, you can't yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yes, guidelines, because I think when people first start to consider, oh, I wonder, could I write, I think I've got a story I'd like to write. And often it's like, so, where's the self-help manual that tells me do A, B, and C, and I will become? And some of that advice I think is really useful, but often it's like, you need to become you, you know, great what everybody else is doing.
Mm, yeah,
But
it's such a personal thing. I
yeah,
mean, there are obviously elements that have to, you have to be able to convey your thoughts on a page. You have to be able for the reader to understand what you're saying, and there are
yeah,
certain conventions that you have to sort of, you have chapters and you have paragraphs, and there's all that you have to, you know. But as far as writing process goes, I think it is very personal. I mean, I do have actually there is a book that did help me a lot when I transitioned from pantsing to plotting.
yeah.
So I was having real trouble with one of my books and I just couldn't finish it. And it had sat there for a few years and I wanted to finish it. And somebody recommended the book Take Off Your Pants by Libby Hawker.
Uh-huh.
And it's basically stop flying by the seat of your pants and plot your book. But it's very character led. I can't even explain it very well, but it was a really great help to me to structure my books. And it meant that I finished it within a couple of months, whereas it had taken me years for the first half.
Wow. Yeah.
Just because she sort of led you down this path of how you could structure it. And yeah, it was fantastic.
Thank you for that tip. I'm sure anybody listening who is thinking, how can I make progress? That might be could you just repeat the
Yes,
title?
it's Take Off Your Pants
Yeah.
by Libby. Libbie Hawker, Hawker.
Brilliant. Thank you for that tip. Extremely useful. Back to The Silent Bride. The lovely format and content that we have, think of the content. Is there anything that sadly, for the final cut, didn't make it into the story that you were sad about having to leave behind, when structural edits and other things? Or are we do we get the chance to see this in the form that it more or less is in?
So my struggle is word count, in that it's always light and I need to add more. So I write quite sparingly and fast, and I don't embellish that much, I suppose. So no, everything that you're reading there is what I originally wrote, but there's more. Like, so my editor will want me to maybe nail down motivations, or embellish, bring out more red herrings or more characters, or character traits or something, so it will have been added to rather than cut.
Yeah. Again, the times when people said, oh, they said I couldn't use this, but for you, and hey, less is more. I'm a big believer of less is more. Why does a book have to be like a brick for it to be deemed, something that we should read? I think if it flows and it goes, which this does, I have to say, readers, listeners, viewers, if you are, and I hope you do, pick up The Silent Bride, I would say maybe, well, either be prepared not to go to sleep, or set yourself, like, I'm going to do this in 2 days. You will not want to read this book sort of like dose by dose. It's a book that just says, read me now and find out, what is behind, what was all this about and why. Because you really do need to find out what all that was about. What are you proudest of about what you achieved with The Silent Bride?
I love my opening. I loved it. When you come up with an idea and you just think, yes, that's it. Because with some books that you can struggle with them and you can think, oh, that's not quite right, or it's not strong enough, but with this, I just kind of thought, yes, I would want to read that, and hopefully others will want to read that because it is intriguing. And then the other thing I'm proud of is my ending. Again, I didn't have a definite ending. I wasn't sure. And then when it comes to you, what you're going to do, you're like, oh yes, that's it. That's it. And it's that feeling of relief and excitement that you've got that ending that I think suits the book. So I'd say, yeah, my beginning and my ending, I'm very proud of.
Beautiful. And I wonder then, because there's an aspect of this that is vital. And how have you and the team managed to market this book, publicize the blurb that's there? It's done so well, and yet you've managed to keep, back what it's actually all about. How difficult was that for you as a team?
Very difficult. In fact, I'm terrified talking to you now. I say something, because honestly, I just think, am I going to give a spoiler to my own book?
Yeah.
So it's terrible.
Yeah.
I know. So yeah, I think hopefully the beginning, is a strong enough hook that would make people talk about it without what really is occurring. Or what,
yeah. Sorry, I'm gobsmacked by this book and the way that you've all done this. Because it's such a vital
the team
element.
are amazing, because they ask me before, what don't you want us to put? What don't you want us to write about? What would be a spoiler? So that's actually really fantastic. I've never had that before, where a publisher would say, they would ask my opinion, what don't you want included in the blurb, in the retailer description.
Because I think again it's an element that from this side of the pages, shall we say, certain things that we maybe don't even consider, but the time that goes into choosing what are the hooks that we'll use, you know, to bring a book to an audience so that
Mm.
they think, oh, all right,
Mm.
okay. And again, just to say, honestly, to get to the end and realize, oh, with that, it's fabulous. It is
Oh.
so powerful. It is fabulous. And yeah, yeah, yeah. Anyway, as you can see, I got extremely excited, lost the headphones in what you did. Other elements. Oh, there was one element that I wanted to ask you about. There's mention of Alice's manicured nails. And I don't. Mine are
No,
all different. Yeah,
no.
I know. No.
She's not me, basically, no. So I
Yeah,
yeah, my daughter has beautifully, she loves to go to the nail salon and get her
yeah.
and makeup and everything, and I'm just not that girl.
So did you have fun creating a character that, as you say, this is not me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, most of my characters are not, but they will maybe have an element, in their
Mhm,
experience or their personality or something that maybe
mhm,
or that I will draw on, but they're not. Yeah, I mean they're all young. Most of my characters are younger than me for a start. They're the main characters. So
And
yeah,
what, I mean, so the challenge lies before Alice to work out what the hell is going on. Mm, if you had to introduce her, you know, to a group of people, what would you say were the character traits? I mean, do you like Alice? I mean, that might be a difficult question. I don't know, as you've created her.
I think the problem with this is that you're not seeing the true Alice in the story necessarily. So
Clever.
so you might be seeing because she's in this stressed position.
Yeah.
She's in this. She's not in a normal situation.
Mm,
So you're seeing a character that is maybe behaving in a way that she wouldn't normally be behaving. So I'd say normally she's confident and she's friendly and she's bubbly. She's got this lovely, secure family environment. She's got her sister and her. But then as you dig deeper, you see that everything is not perfect. And even despite what's been going on with the wedding, there are other elements in her life that aren't perfect either. And it's that thing, isn't it, of people present to you, their public persona, and it's not necessarily how they're feeling inside or what's been going on in their lives. Everybody's complicated, and you can't really judge until you really get to know somebody. You see all the smiles. It's like that Instagram thing, isn't it? You see
yes. Yeah.
on social media and everything's perfect, and like I'm not going to put a pic. Sometimes I do put pictures of things going wrong because I think it's funny and people can relate, but generally you're putting a picture of you on
That's right.
holiday, or
Yeah.
where you're looking nice and you've done your hair and your makeup and you're all fancy, but that's not.
Yeah. I wonder what would happen if we did a thing of, let's do my negative experiences of life on Instagram.
That'd be quite fun.
Yeah,
Yeah.
having the most miserable
Depressing.
day because
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And rather than having I don't know, a heart or a thumbs up, maybe what could it be? Maybe I don't know, maybe a tear joining in with
Yeah.
people's misery, or a
I
frown.
know. Solidarity kind of.
Yeah, yes, yes,
Yeah.
which is way more understanding. So
Yeah.
yeah, 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 yeah. Support.
Yeah.
I think that is a really good way to think about, who are we seeing and how are we seeing them, and things might, because of changes and things, it might not be the full picture of a person. Um, I think we'll leave it at that because yeah, yeah. Um, if it's all right, can I ask you, what are you doing now? Because you say, the Silent Bride, you wrote this quite quite a bit ago.
Yeah, a year
So
ago.
yeah, so what's Shalini Boland on with now? And when can we look forward to it? No pressure.
Right, well, so I have finished book 2 for Thomas and Mercer, and that is called The School Reunion, and it's coming out in January, and there
Yes.
it is very drama-filled.
Oh yes, 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 yes.
So it's about, Chloe, and she is fed up. She's divorced, she's got a boring job, she's not got many friends, and she gets this invitation to her school reunion. And she doesn't want to go because she's got nothing to show off about herself, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, she does decide, she thinks, well, what the hell have I got to lose? I'm, you know, nothing's going on. And actually, there was this boy that I really fancied at school, and I think he's single, and I'm going to go. So, anyway, so that's the setup. And it gets crazy, but it's good fun. It was a good fun book to write. And then
Oh,
I'm editing the book after that at the moment. So, yeah.
I get the sense that yes, this is work, and you've got to knuckle down on it, but I get you enjoy. I mean, the light in your eyes as you're talking about these subsequent books. That
They are fun to write because you're writing about, you can put yourself in situations that you'd never be in your real life, or like for the one that I'm writing at the moment, set in Venice, so it's all beautiful and lovely, but there's this dark element to it as well. So it's quite exciting. You kind of get to do all these things that you might not necessarily do in your everyday life. Well, I don't. I sit around in my jogging bottoms, kind of in front of a laptop.
But and that, I think, again, just drawing our time together to a close, for readers as well, that's what you give us. You give us a chance to live a life we probably wouldn't, experience things we wouldn't, um, and that range of emotion. I think, the highs, the lows, the fear, the scare, the hopes. It's, and we all we have to do is just be willing to turn the page or press play on the audiobook, and go with it. So yeah, Shalini, I am so grateful for our time together. Thank you for sharing, your thoughts about writing, all about how you go about things. Yeah, and
That was really lovely. Thank you for having me on the show. I loved every minute.
an absolute pleasure. As I say, best of luck with this
What my
fabulous. Yeah, yeah. All the very best with that, and I'm looking forward to January coming along. Having last year I went to a, what was it, 40th school reunion, so I'll be interested to to compare. Did anything similar occur at ours as
I hope
compared
not,
to?
let's say.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there were some things, but probably I suspect it's not going to be what's happening. But anyway, for now, just to say, hope to see you soon. Hope we can get together at some point and
Definitely.
and keep discussing what you do. Yeah,
Oh, thanks, Jackie. It's been great.
a pleasure, pleasure. See you soon.
Take care.
Bye.